Welcome everyone, we're so excited to have you here today at the first ever Community Safety Summit. This is an event where we come together as neighbors, organizers, and advocates, all working toward a safer, stronger community. We're going to take a moment to acknowledge our land and labor acknowledgements. We acknowledge that we work within the occupied territory of Lushootseed peoples, among them the Duwamish, Puyallup, Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Samish, Skykomish, Snohomish, Snoqualmie, Stillaguamish, Squaxin, Suquamish, Swinomish, Tualaip, and Upper Skagit. These nations have existed in this place from time immemorial and have a rich legacy of stewarding, protecting, and caring for the land and waterways. We also acknowledge the injustice of the Treaty of Point Elliott and of the fact that Duwamish do not have legal recognition in their land in a city now named after one of their great leaders, Sahal. We must acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, developmental throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their descendants who suffered the horror of the transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can be felt and witnessed today. Today we had the chance to learn from leaders who are making a difference and discuss how we can make positive changes in our neighborhoods.
The purpose of today's summit is simple but powerful: to connect, empower, and inspire. Community safety is about each of us coming together and finding ways to support one another. Through our conversations and breakout sessions, we're looking forward to hearing your ideas on how we can make our community a better place for everyone.
Our theme today is community empowerment and safety. That means not only learning from experts, but realizing that each one of us can play a role in creating a safe environment. Today's summit is a place where we can explore real strategies to help keep our schools, communities, and neighborhoods safe by working together.
As we get started, we want to encourage everyone here to take part in the discussions, share your perspectives, and connect with others. This summit isn't just about listening, it's about taking action together. We hope you leave here today feeling inspired and ready to play a part in making a positive difference in our community.
Please welcome Gregory Davis, representing the Rainier Beach Action Coalition. Gregory Davis is a passionate advocate for community empowerment and equity. As a leader with the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, he has worked tirelessly to strengthen Rainier Beach by addressing public safety, youth engagement, and economic development. Gregory believes that by mobilizing the community and creating safe, supportive spaces, we can uplift everyone together. Today, he'll share his insights on how we can work collaboratively to make lasting changes in our neighborhoods.
Good to be here. I looked at that picture that you all gave me and I said, I got on the same outfit. I hate that. But then I suppose it is a uniform. It is a uniform. So welcome everyone. Again, my name is Gregory Davis and I'm the managing strategist for the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, affectionately known as RBAC. And we have a tagline that some of the young people created, RBAC has your back. And so this is sort of a theme that I'm going to be projecting through my remarks today. We must have young people involved in this community safety work. Young people bring ingenuity, they bring creativity, they bring passion, they bring questions, and all of those are what we need in this arena in order for it to achieve the successes that we desire. I do want to first ask for a round of applause for the Seattle Neighborhood Group, who helped bring this together. Got Audiot over there, Kathy, seeming like Thomasina. There's Thomasina, and then we've got the young people here. Am I missing anybody I need to shout out for SNG? Armando, where's Armando? Raise your hand, Armando. He's stuck over there, okay. So Rainier Beach Action Coalition has been, as we say, rocking with Seattle Neighborhood Group for, since 2010. And it has been around community safety. We were there together when the city of Seattle decided to pursue a proposal with the Department of Justice that, and then what we did was we used this research by George Mason University that looked at street segments. And actually Seattle was the study, the city of study, where they looked at street segments and the contribution that street segments created to crime. They said through their research that 50% of the crimes happen at 5% of the places. And so when we were successful in getting this Department of Justice grant, we decided to use Rainier Beach as a place of study using that research. And we looked at particular segments in our neighborhood. George Mason University created a data agreement with Seattle Police Department. Seattle Police Department produced data that showed the type of incidents that happened at locations, the day of the week it happened, and the time of the day that it happened. And those were the locations that we decided to utilize this place activation strategy that wound up impacting community safety in our neighborhood in a positive way. And one of the reasons that we did it was we made sure that we involved young people in that body of work. So that's kind of the opening related to the relationship with Seattle Neighborhood Group. I would like you to also just give another round of applause to Vianney, Ashari, Coraline, and Litsa. Can we give another round of applause to them, because they are embodying the young people today. They're here leading. I did ask them for permission to say something, and I asked them what they would like me to say. They said I can speak my mind. Well, I had some planned remarks, so I'm going to go with those and might inject some speaking my mind in there at some point. So we'll be using the slide deck to talk about some of the things that I want you to know about what Rainier Beach Action Coalition is doing in the community to make the impact that this forum and summit is about. So you'll see we talk about the power of organizing within Rainier Beach and needing to involve young people in that. We want you to be able to learn and understand the conditions needed, steps to take to gain policy wins through community organizing. That ultimately is, when you think about Rainier Beach Action Coalition, we want you to not only think about direct service, but what we want you to think about is system change and policy change. We don't do direct service just for direct service sake. We do it for system change and policy change sake. And so we're going to introduce you to some elements that will have resulted in that. So a little bit background about myself. I am a transplant. Grew up in West Compton, California. Went to high school at South Central California, little parochial high school named Verbum Dei High School. What's interesting is that eventually the Jesuit Society took over Verbum Dei and created this work experience program. And they also now just opened one in Upper Rainier Beach, Cristo Rey. That's something that's happening on the horizon out there. Came up here to go to Seattle University and actually been here since 1984. So these are some of my work experiences. First job out of college, junior achievement, help young people learn how to start their own businesses. Then went over to Center for Career Alternatives. You all might know this gentleman, Alan Sugiyama, is who I was somewhat mentored under, and he now has a high school named after him, Alan T. Sugiyama High School in Rainier Beach. Then went to Bird Bar Place. Back then, it was called Central Area Motivation Program, or CAMP. And started a youth development program there called Rite of Passage Experience, or ROPE. And then ultimately moved over to KC Family Programs, where I was in child welfare using my family preservation experience, and then left KC Family Programs. They had me in Virginia when Hurricane Harvey hit Houston. And I'm like, man, why am I in Virginia helping these folks when I can probably and need to be in my neighborhood, in my community, Rainier Beach, impacting it if something happened, if a disaster happened. And so that's what had me leave Casey Family Program to work full-time for Rainier Beach Action Coalition. I'm actually a founder of the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, going way back to 2003, where I was the volunteer and board chair We then merged with an organization called Rainier Beach Moving Forward, and that's where Rainier Beach Action Coalition is. So now I work there full time as a managing strategist. We've got about 30 staff people. 15 of them are between the ages of 15 and 24. So over half of our workforce are young adults. We call them YADAs, young adults transitioning to adulthood. And that was the name they came up with to dub themselves, because usually we say, look at these kids, or look at these young people, or look at these youth. And many times they're 21 and they're grown folks. So young adults transitioning to adulthood. So that's a little bit about me. Oh, and here's my lovely family. You probably know some of them. Wonderful daughter, Kyla, who's right now executive director at Rainier Scholars. Jarrell, who's working with me at RBAC. He's our transformation strategist. Also has a performing arts career. He's known as Rel B. Freak. You've probably heard of him. And then my wife, Sean, was talking to brother Cleavon over there, who's been married, 56 years. He's been married 56 years. Let's get his brother some. Yeah, that's your name, right? That's you. And we're talking about, marriage. I've been married 40 years, right? And we've been talking about some of the secrets. I usually, when I get a microphone, do try to start a marriage retreat every now and then. But I'm gonna stop, because this is community safety. We always like to talk about going a little bit deeper on what this equity matter is. We often hear about equity, and having a visual of it really helps people understand it. So you can see this slide that talks about equality with people standing under the apple tree. Everybody has the same size box, and that's what equality is. But equity is supporting people according to their particular need. So you provide them with, a little higher box in order to have the same opportunity that others who have opportunity have. And then we decided to use the bicycle example here. So you can see what equality is. Everybody got the same bike, whether you're a young person, elderly person. No, you need a bike to meet your particular needs, to help you with where you're at. And so then here's also a ball game example where equality is everybody has the same fence height, but ultimately we need to equip people with what they need in order to have the same opportunity that others have. So now we got a little deeper understanding about equity, because that's something that's interwoven into how we do our work. So this is a little bit background on Rainier Beach. Want to give the Department of Neighborhoods and Director of the Department of Neighborhoods some love, because this was a snapshot that they produced for all of the neighborhoods in the city. And so one of the things that's important if we're doing community safety work in any place that we're at, is we got to understand what's on the ground, what's happening on the ground. And so this is, we're not going to go through this, just wanted to kind of give some props to Department of Neighborhoods, and also just tell you that this is a strategy that one of the things that has to be embedded in the work that you do. You got to know where you are and who's there and the makeup of that community. We steward the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan and hold on to this. Oh man, going way back to 1994 when Norm Rice was in office. We supported the neighborhood plan idea, and then we pursued a neighborhood plan update. The city was allowing 3 neighborhoods to update their plan. And so Rainier Beach Action Coalition stewards the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan. This plan is the hopes and the dreams of the residents who live in that neighborhood. And so when we talk about stewarding it, our interest is to secure resource on behalf of this neighborhood through this plan. We hire people from the neighborhood to implement the strategies that are in this plan. And that's one reason I believe we are having some of the successes that we're having as an organization. So a little bit information about Rainier Beach Action Coalition. In order to help the neighborhood plan make sense to people in the neighborhood, we kind of had to break it down and to break it up. So we created this logo that essentially is symbolic of the street segments in the neighborhood, because this is where we do our work. We do our work on the ground in the street. And so one of the things that we also had to do was break up the activity that's cited in the neighborhood plan by categories. And so we decided to say blue, black, orange, and green. And the blue is a place for everyone, which symbolizes our economic development work, housing, transportation. Black is lifelong learning, where our education work is. We kind of put our administrative work as an organization in there. Orange is a beautiful, safe place. That's where we have our community safety and our arts work. And then green is growing healthy food in order to develop healthy industry. Farms, parks, gardens are also in there, and the environment. And so the way that we look at the neighborhood is through, and the way we organize the neighborhood is through this constellation model. And so you can see how we've kind of divided this constellation according to the actual action areas. We are a coalition. We are a coalition of coalitions. And so we can't do anything and have any success without doing it with others in collaboration. And that's one of the things that I just love talking to young people about, because I think as much as we appreciate the ingenuity and the creativity and the passion, they sometimes want to do stuff by themselves, right? And so we're saying, no, you can't go alone. You got to have a community with you if you want the success that you want to have. Here are some images of us involving young people in our community safety work. These are our corner greeters. We call it, we use the youth and neighborhood engagement methodology in order to impact. So anytime you're in the neighborhood and you see orange canopies, young people, they're the ones that's providing information, literature, they're doing safety surveys. They are using the methodology called crime prevention through environmental design. They have developed 4 levels of crime prevention through environmental design. The first level is litter pickup, beautification. The second level is using Find It, Fix It. How many people know about Find It, Fix It? All right, good. We had a staff person who was the second highest user of Find It, Fix It in the city a couple of years ago. It was some gentleman in Ballard, he was the number one, but over 500 Find It, Fix It reports that we were able to do. So whenever you see young people, this is one of the keys to activating space and making a difference in the neighborhood. When you activate a space with young people, the research says it decreases the incidents that contribute to youth crime. And so this is what we have created a model around in order to make a difference in community safety in our neighborhood, and we have young people involved. We use restorative practices to also support community safety in our neighborhood. And so this is a group of young people that we actually are partnering with. I think these young people are from Seattle Tilth, the Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands. They have a youth stewardship program. And so we invited them to our activations in order to activate this particular space, Rainier and Henderson. So young people, 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 young people. And let's give them another round of applause. I don't know when last time they got some rounds of applause, but yeah, we gotta have them involved. So here's a group of our young people who are doing what we call positive behavioral intervention support. We are trying to create a social norm in Rainier Beach where safety, respect, and responsibility is at the core of what happens in that neighborhood. And so these young people are putting out yard signs that help promote this social norm campaign, respect, safety, and responsibility. And we hired young people, young artists, to create these. And so you'll see these throughout the neighborhood, you'll see them in banners, and we gotta have young people involved in this work, supporting this work. So in terms of that crime prevention through environmental design, had to form a group of young people to focus on that work. This is the clean crew, right? And so what they did is they're the ones who embrace the crime prevention through environmental design. Having young people involved helps them also can use their ideas. So one of the things that they did was create this poster to kind of help the neighborhood embrace crime prevention through environmental design, Dunk the Jump. They're the ones that came up with the high-vis yellow jackets to wear in order to, when they go out to do their work. Now, don't ask me how often they wear them. That's the other side with young people. They want stuff, and then after that, it gets kind of old, and they stop using it. So that now you'll probably see young people in orange and black. So this is one of the things that they created. They created a zine that talks about beautification in the neighborhood and how to beautify the neighborhood. And so this is another thing, again, that you get from young people that we have out there making a difference in our community safety. They told us a beautiful neighborhood is a safe neighborhood. A beautiful neighborhood is a safe neighborhood. So that's why Secretariat is so important. Next slide. Oh, how did that get in there? Okay. Okay, so yeah, we do have the best basketball in the state played, and this is Mr. Olympia, Rainier Beach High School graduate. He was Mr. Olympia a couple of, you can go on to the next slide. That got in there, I don't know how they got in. Just bragging a little bit about hometown. Okay, another area about community impact and policy change and having young people around. This is a real big impact on safety in our neighborhood. These young people, we recruited in conjunction with Puget Sound Sage to do transit justice study. They found a transportation policy that said you need to live 2 miles from your school in order to get free transportation. And that just did not seem right to them. So we started organizing, they started organizing. You can see here, at that time they met with the school board president, Betty Patu, because they asked the school district, who came up with that policy? The school district punted to the state, said it's a state policy. So we went to the state and started talking about it. And we started organizing. They took a march from the school district to the city council, awarded $1 million to the initiative where now every high school student in the city was able to get free transportation. And then what this ultimately resulted in, and what it ultimately resulted in was just this last year, legislation was passed that every 18-year-old in the city, in the state, gets to ride public transportation for free. So this started out in little old Rainier Beach, around an interest in community safety, around an interest in involving young people. So this is an example of what we mean by not just direct service, but system change and policy change. So this is one of the things that you will see when you impact young people. We decided to identify certain street segments in Rainier Beach neighborhood. Rainier and Henderson, the light rail station, Rose Street, Safeway, and Lake Washington Apartments. Those were the locations trending for the highest incidents that contributed to youth crime. So those are the locations that we activated with crime prevention through environmental design, with youth and neighborhood engagement. And one of the things that you'll see, the blue is the youth incidents. And this shows from 2011 to 2022, the number of incidents that occurred by young people in the neighborhood. And down is good, okay? So anything you see going down is good. The orange are the adults. I don't think we ever committed to impacting the adult number, but we do know that it does have an impact when our young people are involved in it. And so this is a result of what you get when you involve young people, when you pursue and steward the dreams and hopes of the folks who live in that neighborhood, when you create these programs and projects that help them involve. Food justice is another area that we've decided to pursue, and we joined a partnership with the Friends of Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands and Tilth Alliance. And this is how we've activated some spaces. We've put raised beds in. This happens to be a location that we activate with our youth and neighborhood engagement. And these are some folks whose shoulders we stand on now. There's Harry Hoffman in there, rest in peace. Yolanda Gill Massandiri, rest in peace, who were the founders of the Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetlands. And so we believe that if someone is full and not hungry, they probably commit less crimes, right? Probably. Somebody do that. Well, yeah, I'll go on to school. Y'all do that research and then get back to us. But that's something that we just inherently believe. A full belly is likely not to contribute to crime. And so one of the things that came out of this was the Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Wetland. Okay, and this is a bookend to a body of work that we're doing called a Food Innovation Center, and we're looking to Rainier Beach to become a food innovation district. So this is the Food Innovation Center that we have hearts to do. We received a grant from Office of Planning and Community Development, the Equitable Development Initiative, and we were able to purchase 3 parcels in Rainier Beach, right across from the Rainier Beach Light Rail Station, and this is our vision for that particular location. Food Innovation Center on the bottom floor, housing on top. We're particularly interested in home ownership, and so that's something that we're getting ready to start a capital campaign for now. I think we're kind of rounding out. I'll say these are some demonstrations of young people contributing public art. You'll see these banners in the neighborhood. So these are some images from Northwest Tap Connection. Again, talking about the arcs and how important they are to community safety in the neighborhood. This is Maple Creek Walkway, and these are some arc designs that the young people created for that particular location. You may be familiar with it. It's right across from Rainier Beach High School when you kind of walk towards Safeway, 52nd Avenue. There's actually a creek in a pipe under this, and it's daylighted in Beersheba Park. So we're doing some work. There may be a flyer on, Tanya, can you pick up that gold color? Yeah, some people have those on their table. So that's something that we're doing on the 23rd to promote the Recreating Henderson Street project and what's happened in the neighborhood in terms of developing Mixed Creek. On behalf of Rainier Beach, we thank you. It is great to be here with you. I am happy that you all are interested in this issue, and just remember, this is one of the things that happens when people come together, when organizations come together. When you involve young people in the work, you will get these kinds of impacts and these kinds of results. And that's what they gave me permission to do. That's me speaking my mind. And I want to thank you all again for your attention. And yeah, best to you as you go forward in your missions to make sure that community safety exists in our neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Now let's welcome Director Tanya Ru from the Chinatown International District. Director Tanya Ru is a community leader and advocate for the Chinatown International District. With deep roots in the CID, Tanya is committed to preserving the history, culture, and safety of this vibrant neighborhood. Her work focuses on supporting local businesses, enhancing public safety, and advocating for resources that meet the unique needs of the community. Today, she will discuss the importance of community solidarity and how to protect and uplift our neighborhoods through collective action.
So honored to be here today. I grew up here in this neighborhood. My little sister went to preschool here at El Centro de la Raza. I grew up behind near the gas stations on 13th Avenue South and Beacon Avenue South. And when I was growing up, my dad died and my mom went to work full time. My little sister joined a gang, and it was really scary. This was in the 1990s. It was when the Bloods and the Crips were fighting over territory here in Beacon Hill. And our area in here was not very safe. People were being shot outside my house. We were constantly taking naps on the floor because it wasn't safe to be walking around in our house when there were gunshots outside. My little sister and I were looking for family structure. My little sister joined the gang. Her friends were engaged in prostitution and drugs and guns. But I found the performing arts. I wanted to be a dancer when I grew up, and I spent most of my time with my friends dancing and going to classes and making up dances and performing when we could. And so one night, my mom got a call that my sister was arrested. She was going to spend a night at the King County Jail. She was in a car full of kids with guns and drugs, and they were engaged in prostitution. And so that was the wake-up call for my mom. She quit her job. She was able to spend more time with the family. And my little sister healed and was able to move on and become a drug counselor. And I learned how important it is to have activities and to be able to have us follow our passions. So I don't live in Beacon Hill anymore. I live in Rainier Beach, right next to the Rainier Beach Community Center, the high school, Atlantic Street Center, and that area is thriving due to the work of so many amazing organizations. My family business is the Chinatown International District. I grew up in my family's bakery. I used to climb on the counter and count the change and serve pastries and serve cookies to other little kids. And so the Chinatown International District had a special place in my heart. And I currently have a small business there as well and have built housing in that area because there is a big connection between housing and public safety and community safety, as well as activities for young people. And so when the pandemic happened, all of the restaurants pretty much shut down. There was a lot of COVID racism and a lot of uncertainties. And so a lot of people quarantined at home. There was a curfew, I'm sure you remembered. And we saw that our neighborhoods became ghost towns. And so a lot of people were coming into the small businesses, they were breaking in, they were looting, because there's no one there, there's no feet in the ground, no one to see or stop people. And so we put a call out for community volunteers. Hey, we see that there are a lot of people in their cars driving around the Chinatown International District. Let's get out of our cars and let's walk together. And so early during the pandemic, we would meet at Hinghey Park every single night. And at first there were just maybe 20 of us, and slowly we grew because people from all over the city came to help. And basically, we have 4,000 people living in the Chinatown International District. 2,000 are seniors, are elders. This is also the time of anti-Asian hate, where we saw a lot of instances in New York and San Francisco where our elders were getting their faces pushed down to the pavement, they were being beaten, and we had a similar incident happen in the Chinatown International District. And so we got together a volunteer group to give hope to our small businesses, to our elders, to our residents, and we just walked around. It really goes to show like how one person's call for volunteerism and for help, and everyone showed up, and it was just quite amazing. We did things like senior escorts. We also did things like senior self-defense. We helped, go to the small businesses and introduced ourselves. We greeted everybody we came across and said hi to let people know they were being seen and if they needed help. We also slowly segued into outreach for our unhoused neighbors. During that pandemic, we saw large encampments develop of 40 to 50 people. There were 3 of them near the CID at Soto area. And so we fundraised through a GoFundMe account to be able to buy mutual aid supplies. We did meals every single night, about 40 to 50 meals, water bottles, we collected jackets. And during this time, we saw fentanyl drugs slowly come into our encampments, come into 12th and Jackson, where you see about 100 to 200 people there currently every day. And so we decided that we were going to try to fill gaps in city services ourselves. So we're going to do community work ourselves. So we fundraised to buy Narcan. We took CPR classes. We walked into the encampments and we saw what was really happening there. We saw who were the ones who were in need of resources, who were the people who also were engaged in activities that were not desirable. We knew who was selling. We knew who had weapons. We also knew who needed help. We saw many people in the encampments, anywhere from people who were 80 years old to families, young kids, babies, people with animals. And so we tried to help connect people to resources. We tried to fundraise to get people what they needed. And most of all, we really tried to show that the community cared, that we were there for them. If they needed help, please let us know. And so it was great to see so many people from all over the city. People were coming in from Tacoma, from Vashon Island to volunteer and walk with us. And our group was full of young people. It was quite amazing. People in high school would come and walk with us. And many people in other neighborhoods were asking, how do they replicate this model? So I'm sure you may have known I ran for a Seattle City Council last year and this year as well. I was appointed to the position. And due to seeing the effects of our little volunteer group on a community, and due to all of the outreach and engagement other communities were doing to try to replicate a similar group, was able to get in the budget and change policy for a position in the in the Department of Neighborhoods department to be able to have a full-time person to be able to help coordinate similar volunteer teams throughout the city to empower neighborhoods, empower people to start these volunteer groups to help our unhoused neighbors. And so my message to you is you can accomplish anything. If you see a need and you want to help, you could absolutely do it. And you have no idea like the ripple effects that may happen when you help a young person or you help an elder who is unhoused. If you make that connection and you chat with them and you talk with them and develop that trust, then it's really effective. We were walking last night with our community watch group, and we met somebody who told us, we look forward to seeing you out every single week. We wait an entire week to see you guys because we have food, we have meals, we also hang out. We ask people how their day is doing, if they need help, how they're doing. And that connection is really important, especially when it comes to community safety, especially when we look at 12th and Jackson. It's not just emphasis patrols, it's also making sure that we have groups like We Deliver Care, community passageways, people who are out there develop that trust and talking to community, as well as, we have also funding for a mobile medication van for that area as well, for downtown Seattle and Capitol Hill in our different neighborhoods, because it's all the above when it comes to community safety. It's going to take community members like you and like us. It's going to take the city. It's going to take the state in terms of how do we put out more mental health treatment centers. But I think it all starts from the ground level. It starts from all of us in the community, seeing what the need is and then acting on it, making sure that things get done and helping people and make that connection. And so I think, I'm so excited that you have organized this community forum and community meeting. I think that you have amazing things ahead of you and you're going to accomplish so many great things. I look forward to seeing all the things that you do. And I believe the sky's the limit. I think if you want to do something, you can do it. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. And so thank you so much.
And thank you, Director Tanya Wu. Next, please welcome Jennifer Chow, the Director of Seattle's Department of Neighborhoods. Director Jennifer Chow leads Seattle's Department of Neighborhoods, where she focuses on promoting equitable community engagement across the city.
Thank you so much. Before I get started, I actually want to recognize Natalie Walton Anderson. She is our Director of Public Safety in the Mayor's Office, and she is here because the honor's in the invite, and you all reached out, and her presence just makes a difference because Natalie herself, and I won't speak for her, but I will speak a little, is that this is close to her heart, and I hope one day she'll be able to share her story as well. But thank you so much. Natalie just wanted to have faces meet you so that people have named you faces because she will stay connected. That is how Natalie moves, and so we will be seeing more of her. And it takes a village, right? The city of Seattle takes that. And so with that too, I want to just acknowledge Alvin. He is our community engagement coordinator from the Department of Neighborhoods. He works closely Never Seattle Neighborhood Day, and Debbie Davis, our Rainier Beach, A Beautiful Safe Place. And then Iona is also here from DON. We are diehard of One Seattle, so you see our shirts. Let me know if you want any. There is a reason behind that when we talk about belonging and inclusion. When I was invited to share my story, that was what the invite or the reach out was, and to say, hey, they reached out to Iona, who's my chief administrator, and asked, is Jennifer available? Thomasina reached out with Kathy and said, is Jennifer available to attend, to talk about community safety, how this speaks to her and how this speaks to her role, and just what it means to her. And I had already committed at that time to another event. It was an Oceania event for Polynesian groups. They needed sponsorship and wanted us to attend. And as you may know, right, many of us get invited to a lot of places. And as you know me, I see a lot of you all in community, especially Tanya. Everywhere that I go, she is upright. She's in community. That is her heart, and that is how she leads. And I want to thank you, Councilmember Wu, for the funding for that position. DON needs capacity to be able to do the work. And people always say, can you do this? Can you do that? And I always say, yes, resource us. Because we are also human beings that are doing work. And when we're stretched thin, it's harder to do good work. It's hard to do meaningful and impactful work, right? And we want to do more than scratch the surface. And we can only do it with community. So this is very important. This is very important to me, right? And you always discern. Like, these are young people hosting space and event for us to be at, right? And to me, I always say when community invites you, you decide to attend or not. You decide to come. And this is very important work. And Oceana is a great organization as well, right, for Polynesian. And again, we were able to have other people attend and break bread with them. But here, I was asked to share my story. So that's what I'm going to do. As maybe folks don't know, so I identify as she or her, and I am of Min ethnicity. I want to just start with that because it is going to be related to who I am and how I lead and my lens. I really do want to thank the Seattle Neighborhood Group for the impactful, incredible work that they do in community. This Community Safety Summit, led and hosted by the young people, the young adults, YADAs, that's not what you'll call it. as you're growing, because I also have a young adult who is growing and transitioning to adulthood. She's 20, going on 25, and tells me what to do every day. But so I understand, right? You are our future, and we grow from our elders, and we learn from the past. We live in the present, and then we look towards the future. And so all of us have a role, and we are so glad to be a part of that. But with that said, this Community Safety Summit brings everyone together who cares about creating healthy communities and safe neighborhoods. This is what this Community Safety Summit resonates with me for. I also want to acknowledge El Centro, right, de la Raza, who has its own legacy of community impact. So this space brings a lot of meaning. So with that said, I'm honored to be here to share my story, my journey, and my calling. So I wasn't born in Seattle, but I consider Seattle my home. I grew up in the Central District on 3200 East Union Street. I remember all my addresses. And I think it has meaning, and I just shared this to my husband. I said, I have to keep saying the addresses because place-based belonging matters. I grew up in the 1970s in the Central District in an apartment on 3200 East Union across from Madrona with other Southeast Asian immigrants and refugees. We also had family living on 23rd and Cherry across from Garfield Community Center. And the first time I felt belonging was in the Central District, when I found community. And the color of our skin didn't matter when you share life together as neighbors. So that is how I found community. The first time I experienced community safety was in 1987, when my 25-year-old uncle was stabbed to death on 24th Avenue and East Spring Street when he was robbed coming home from the mini mart in the evening. I was 11 years old, and I began to realize that my neighborhood was unsafe. And it wasn't unsafe because of my community, but it was unsafe because of the social construct that causes our communities to survive at each other's expense. And that is a systems problem. Fast forward to 2011, I have a 7-year-old daughter and I have a 3-year-old son. I find out that my cousin, who just turned 24 years old the day before, dies at the Seattle World Bakery in White Center. He was shot 4 times because of an argument. He had a daughter who was 2 years old. My cousin was born in Seattle and had hopes to thrive. He wanted to make his immigrant parents proud. And he also wanted to be a good father. Unfortunately, because of a dispute, my 15-year-old niece now has to grow up without a father. So these experiences that are very personal to me compelled me to public service. I know how critical it is to feel included because it impacts our belonging. My mom was the first man woman to defy our culture and go to school so that she could learn English so that we could have access to government resources because our community wasn't able to receive that. Like we all know in any community, in any ethnic community, we are not a monolith. And people who were Laotian, Khmer, right, Cambodian, Hmong, they were not Mien. We're not the same. And so they were not having the languages that we needed, and it was creating barriers for my community. So my mom did that. She went back to school to do that, and it really made an impact on me. And it also gave us access to actually be able to connect to our neighbors because they couldn't speak English. And so we can speak English, and we had access and resources, and we could learn the language, then we can actually connect in our shared humanity. My public service journey started in 1999 with the nonprofit sector. I served in direct service helping immigrants with their quality of life and created programs for youth and young adults in their education and employment goals. And then in 2009, I landed in the city of Seattle with the Human Services Department. I served in 4 different roles in the Human Services Department. I managed the Seattle Youth Employment Program and then oversaw the grants and contracts, and then worked in the director's office to administer the first innovation fund to promote racial equity. In 2017, I transitioned to the Department of Neighborhood for 3 years, working on neighborhood planning in the Chinatown International District and also transportation projects in the Central District. In 2020, during the rise of the COVID pandemic, I transitioned to the Consumer Protection Division as a deputy overseeing regulatory programs in the Finance and Administrative Services Department. This included cannabis licensing, adult entertainment, short-term rentals, taxi for hire. I share all this because my journey is going to arrive here. And the reason why is because all this, my life's calling, my lived experience compels me to do this work. And then why it is so powerful in the Department of Neighborhoods and the work that we do as we empower community to lead their own solutions. So in 2023, I came home to DON, to the Department of Neighborhoods, as the director in this role. In this role, I have an opportunity to lead a department that serves all communities and neighborhoods across the city through resilient relationships. Why do we use that language? Because resiliency means sustainable. It means that through hard times, we're going to be honest with each other and we're going to work together and we're going to figure it out. But we have to stay in relationship, and we cannot come in and out of community, and we cannot extract what we need, right? We have to allow community to lead. We have to resource community as they meet them where they're at. We talk about equity, right? Because not all neighborhoods are the same, but everyone wants to thrive. And no neighborhood should have to thrive, or no community has to thrive against each other's detriment or at each other's expense. We should be able to thrive together. So I get the opportunity to lead a department that serves all communities and neighborhoods across the city through resilient relationships, shared humanity, and community-led solutions. The Department of Neighborhoods, if folks don't know, was created in 1991 for civic engagement. And it wouldn't exist without community. The purpose of that is so that people would have access to government and resources. That's when it was created, and also that communities and neighbors would be connected to each other. That is what the DNA of the Department of Neighborhoods. So our role is to support other departments to make sure that they are in community, they're in relationships, so that it is systemic. So that regardless of the administration, regardless of changes in council, the work is still there and sustaining for communities to thrive. So our role is to make sure community has access to government and resources that are connected to each other, because we know that thriving communities produce safe and healthy neighborhoods. This work is personal to me. And I am a firm believer of to whom much is given, much is required. My calling has always been to make things better for community, whether it's through programs, policy, or planning. I am truly grateful for Mayor Harrell for his leadership and his vision of One Seattle. I wouldn't be here without the trust of community, and it is an honor to serve with you. And I hope that that shares a little bit about what compels us to do this work, and how you all can get involved is to making sure that we are investing in communities and in folks, in young people, in elders, in our shared humanity in that sense, so that it can lead. Because again, people who are closest to their own, and I don't want to say like their own pain, but their own problems, also know their own solutions. And so it's really, with the relationship with the city, we just really have to listen, and then also be very honest about what is feasible, what is our role, and be very clear. What community has told me as I continue to be in community, and it has been that way, because that is what is the most empowering about this role, and is the most that brings me joy, is that I do get to build resilient relationships, whether or not I'm in this role or not, because that's what's going to be long lasting, right? And so with the city, what I've heard a lot from the community is we just want to make sure that you are honest with what you can provide for us, and you're honest with what you can't. Don't remove power from us, because the moment that you tell us what you can or cannot do, then we can decide what to do next. But when we give false hope, community thinks that we're going to save, and we're never going to save. We're not meant to be saviors. We're meant to be partners alongside you, and we really are meant to resource and invest and be thought partners to figure out how does community and each neighborhood want to thrive, and how do we do that equitably. So thank you so much.
Let's welcome Oscar Gardia from the Seattle Police Department. Oscar Gardia is a dedicated member of the Seattle Police Department with a strong commitment to building trust and positive relationships between law enforcement and the communities. With a background in community policing and engagement, Oscar works closely with neighborhoods across Seattle to address safety concerns and support proactive crime prevention. Today, he'll share insight to show how we can work together to create safer and more connecting communities, and the role each of us can play in fostering mutual respect and understanding.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So, like she said, my name is Oscar Gardea, and I'm a lieutenant for the Seattle Police Department. I've been with SPD for 24 years. Before that, I worked 6 years for the El Paso Police Department. El Paso is right on the border to Mexico. So a little bit about me. I was born in Juarez, Mexico. My mom decided to bring myself and my family to the U.S. to make a better life for us. So I grew up half a mile from the Rio Grande, the river. So as you can imagine, all the drugs coming across, all the violence there. So it was a kind of difficult, gangs and things like that. I saw friends committing murder. They're still in prison. Others getting murdered because they got involved in drugs or gangs. The reason I do the work that I'm in, I've been in this unit for 6 years, and it's kind of a dream of mine. So I'm trying to give youth. We do a lot of youth outreach and events. Growing up, my parents, minimum wage. They went to 3rd grade in Mexico, no education, no health benefits. So they were always working. So I was always on the streets. I would always look up to people on the street, gang members as my role models. It wasn't intentional, but you're out there and then you see somebody that you admire, like, oh, I want to be like him, right? So we deal with a lot of communities in Seattle, Rainier Beach, South Park, and other areas where kids experience the same thing, where their parents are working, single parents home. So we try to give youth what like I didn't have or they cannot have access to. For example, we take it for granted, we have like good, decent jobs, and we're like, hey, let's go to the Mariners, let's go to the Sounders. So we try to get tickets and have a field trip with kids. Some of those kids had never gone to the stadiums or even downtown. So we try to do that for them. We have a shop with a cop and things like that. And also we try to give them like mentorship programs and become role models for them. I've always been the type that I like to help people and make things better. So nobody told me to do this, but I became the liaison for the school district ever since I started in the unit, especially since 2020 where we didn't have school officers anymore. So almost on an everyday basis, myself and security, we talk on the phone because there's always issues, school threats or things going on at school. So I always help them, reaching out to the precincts, having extra patrols, things like that. There might be a social media threat. So it's my responsibility and I feel my duty to have extra officers there. Or sometimes I help them with like cases. And also we do have a strong partnership with several community organizations like Community Passageways and Urban Family. And many people do not know about our partnership. So we started doing this July of 2020 when the shooting started going up. So how it works is that I get a text for all the robberies and shootings in the city, right? When the call comes in. So what I do is I text the liaison from Community Passageways and give them the location and what's going on. And then what they do is that they send a team out there to de-escalate the incident. Sometimes they know the victim, sometimes they know the suspect, or they have a hospital team also. They go to the hospital and help the victims like through the recovery process. And also once a week we have a meeting and we talk about the shootings and areas, try to pinpoint where the shootings are happening. And also there's been times where last year there were some youth getting robbed at outside Aki after school, Aki Kurosi, or during lunch at Rainier Beach. So what happens is that I notify the precinct, we have extra officers, and then I notify the community organizations so we can have presence on both ends there. So that's how we work together, and we cannot do the work alone, of course. And also I wanted to share some stats. Some stats don't look pretty, but it's the facts, right? We're talking about community safety. So our staffing, I think we already hit rock bottom. I don't think it can get any worse. Things are looking better. Like the last 2 months, we have a lot of people applying. So for example, 2019, we had 1,408 officers, right? We have under 1,000 now. So it's very challenging. Year to date, we've hired 63. We've lost 65, so we're -2. But like I said, things are getting a little better, little by little. General case detectives that investigate assaults, juvenile crimes, shoplifts, burglaries. We used to have over 60 detectives. They were at every precinct. Each precinct detective would take care of their precinct. Now we only have 9 detectives. So if somebody calls to report a crime, like a burglary or a theft, if the report comes into the detective with no suspect identified, nobody's gonna follow it up. Nobody's, that's the way things are. They're overwhelmed. They're busy. So that's a challenge. Shots fired year to date, we have 635. Last year by this time we were at 631, so 4 more. It's about the same. The highest areas where the shootings are occurring, the Northgate area is 42. The Chinatown International District is at 36. The Central District is 30. Mom Baker neighborhood is 28. Capitol Hill is 28, Rainier View 26, and Rainier Beach has 26 shootings. The precinct that has always had the most shootings is I've kept like reading the reports and stats is that the South Precinct has a 213 year to date. Next one is the North with 151, and then East Precinct has 98 shootings. Homicides year to date, we're at 53. Last year was a record with 72. And the interesting stat that, and I'm like I said, I'm here with just the facts, is that out of the 53 homicide victims, 43% are Black or African American. So, you know, their percentage of population is very low, but you know the homicides are high. And then the age range where most people have been getting murdered is between 25 and 34 years of age, and we have 42 victims. Year to date, we have a total of 208 non-shooting or non-fatal shooting victims. I mean, somebody got shot but didn't die. We have 208, and 53% are Black or African American. 23%, the number two is white. And then the property crimes are just general crimes. We have robberies up 2% from last year. Aggravated assaults are minus 2% from last year. Arsons 7% up. Burglaries 2% up. And one of the crimes that has gone down is motor vehicle theft. It's a minus 90%. About 1,600 cars have been stolen less than last year. So I just wanted, you know, I don't want to come into the meeting and only talk about the positives. I just want to be transparent and be truthful about what's going on in the city. But like I said, our recruiting is getting better. The background investigators 2 months ago, they were checking 12 people that applied for the department, each background. Now they're up to 200 each. So I have a friend that got hired. She has to wait 2 months to enter the academy. So we have him do something else. So it's looking better. Hopefully, I don't know how long it's going to take us to get back to 1,400, but you know, we're working on it. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, let the conversations begin.
This table is for public safety, so they gave us some questions here that the youth have catered for us. So one of the questions is, or one of the leading questions is, what sources of information do you consider reliable for news about your community at Hawaii?
Do we continue using it? That's how we entered into our, what we call our Freedom Net project, where we hire everybody who comes on board is trained to be a citizen journalist to create their own medias. And we use Twitter for that.
Share ideas and getting people involved, especially in the SNG, and Sharon has an Instagram account that we use to memorize not only conferences like these, but also just like general ideas and things that we're working on, which is important.
How can we ensure that information about safety issues, resources, and services is accessible to all community members? But I think we kind of touched on that, where we're just is using their own kind of piece of social media. I'm sure some are more successful than others, depending on your demographic, right? So I think just hitting, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I know like SNB has tried like TikTok a little bit, so it's like just everything. So like it's just the biggest scope that actually.
And I'm also part of like he is like part of the South Park neighborhood group Facebook. So it's a lot of Latinos, right? Latino population that lives there, and people just post everything. They don't call 911, but there's a guy jumping the fence, and they'll send a picture. They'll post a picture. Hey, who's this guy? Or a suspicious car with a plate and everything. So I use that information to pass it on. So I think that's reliable.
Their Facebook group is very active. I'm always looking at South Park. I wish it was like that for Beacon Dome and other neighborhoods.
I remember like we go to Rainier Beach Community Center, and when you walk in, there's that wall full of posters of all activities.
I feel like that can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So when you actually hear people, see people talking, very inspiring and very
important for youth to hear, especially for things that can help them, it benefit them, that they're not aware of.
So, how can community leaders and organizations encourage more diverse voices to participate in engagement efforts?
Emphasizing on inclusivity and equity, because sometimes it can feel like if you're in a space and you don't feel included and you don't feel like a safe or heard, you're just because of your background, because of whatever you identify as. On a whole, like top, say for example, is like a sport. Someone tries to like someone or like someone puts themselves out there, and the first time they try it, they feel discriminated against or they feel not included. Then that could ruin their perception on the whole sport or the whole activity, and that can encourage them not to try something new, and it can have a very, very negative impacts on that person and many things. So
Mainly consent and not making sure that the environment is safe and open and non-judgmental.
I guess for that question to help these, like we're talking about city and elected officials, help bridge some of those language barriers. I know the city has community liaisons. You can lean on them. People are more likely to talk to someone, or if they will can speak their language. I come across that quite a bit when it comes to Hispanic people. More open and be telling, hey, there's an event. The language they're more likely to go. So just leaning on those community liaisons a little bit more to help break some of those language barriers.
And the other one, you need to open up the process. That's the other piece that community leaders forget. They are so used to doing what they've done forever, ever, and they're not willing to step back and reinvent the wheel. Because sometimes it needs reinventing because we have a new generation, and that wheel doesn't work. As you know, like Facebook's an example, but it doesn't work. And so being cognizant enough to be real with that. So, for example, you see RBAC. RBAC's been successful because they recruited young people, bring in young people to do the work.
you're recruiting youth.
Yeah, they recruit youth, and so that's their model. So that's why they've grown and worked.
Was the youth recruit?
Right. And so let's take whatever your target population is. If you use them to do the work for you, you're more likely to get better success. Oh, you have to be trained. Yeah, that's trained and develop. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they should be provided with the opportunity, with the education, the opportunity.
And a strong lead or mentor. You mentor, because that's the other part of it too. Because a community liaison could be a mentor for a young person to reach into the community.
The danger has been resolved. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, hey, okay, like, did like the suspect get like caught, or do you just know that they're not in the area anymore? Like, what does that even mean? Did you confirm something with the victims? And it's just like being so obtuse and obscure about it is honestly sometimes like just more frustrating to the community, and makes the community like it damages the trust.
The immediate danger has been resolved, but not the causal factors behind it.
Yeah, beyond this, you just don't really know what happened. And so we're like, well, are you just saying this because you're like legally obliged to say it? Or like, did you actually do anything? Like, what's going on?
Although sometimes they find that young person was posting. Oftentimes, nationally, I don't know what the data tells me.
Many folks.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, but to say it's nowhere.
And it's not even just that. They tend to grasp the wrong information from it. Because that happened at Nathan Hale. They grasped the wrong information and they had the wrong person. And you have to be inside to really understand who it is. And just really know the person as themselves.
It's kind of hard to say like they will find it on social media because you can always like delete stuff and like make it hard to trace, but I'll say too like if the person has a private account or edited or in any way like
Yeah, I know. I just was, you hear about it in the mainstream media or newspapers.
I say for like SPD for the police is that I feel like social media is like an addiction to a lot. It's an addiction, and how we get information is that like people or youth, they have to like post something with a gun or something. They cannot help themselves. It's like an addiction. They have like do it. So that's how they, that's how we catch up, because they're posting with guns or things like that. They can't help it. It's you just have to show it off. You just got to show it off.
There's a lot of trauma involved that necessitates healing, and intergenerational trauma. So making sure that people are their mental well-being is very important, and that plays into that in the built environment and how we interact with one another.
It's understood.
Public safety is, it's like, again, it's like you should be able to walk down the street without being verbally or be, I guess it. Public safety is so you could go anywhere without being afraid.
Was there?
Yeah, you deserve to feel safe from harm, either as mental or physical or emotional.
Is that your most popular social media platform in order to Instagram? Yeah. Like rather than like TikTok or Twitter.
Yeah, because I feel like Instagram, that's where everybody like, no matter like how you post or what you post, it's always kind of.
Is that why it's used most? Because it's fine.
Oh, yeah. And also too, it's like convenient. Like a lot of kids, like they're not going straight to like Twitter when they're looking for something, or even when they're just bored, they're going to like the Instagram, could be like the reels and it's like in stories. You can see what your friends are there, and you can post and stuff like that. So it's like an R and learn.
And so that is something I'm learning to, as I work with young people, particularly this current generation, is the use of film, short reels, as a way to communicate more. I'd say back then, in my day, that was the thing. But I'm finding that, and so I'm really appreciating the use of it, and how what I'm interested in is the durability of our story, and that helps hold the durability of it. So when a new mayor comes in town, we can show them that. They say, hey, this existed, as opposed to being in some other form and then not being mindful that something before happened.
Because if you think about it, like you can go to a library and turn the newspaper, or you can really go anywhere and read whatever. But Instagram's for everybody. Like you have pages that do like audiobooks, and pages that talk about cooking, and pages that talk about cats. It's literally a platform for everybody. So it's accessible to everybody. So everyone's on it. Like no matter what, everyone's on it in a way. So I feel like it's probably one of my favorite ways to like put information out there.
The aftercare of the victims, because when you're a victim and you come back out in public, there's a whole aftercare piece comes with that. And so if that's not right, that person will never feel safe in public. And so that could be whether the victim persistence piece happened or more likely didn't happen, or erratic. That to me is a big part of the public safety umbrella, because they're the ones who go on social media and immediately repost their trauma and regurgitate and put it back out there, especially if they've not been made whole by those things that are supposed to be there to try to make them whole.
One of the biggest barriers to participation in community initiatives and how these be addressed.
So I think for like our police department or businesses, it's always a budget. It's always a budget and personnel. Like for events that we had, we always like to get patrol they work that area so people can get to know them, but they're short staffed, so sometimes they cannot send anybody because they're minus 10 officers for that day. So sometimes we got to bring them in on overtime, and the budget comes in. So those are challenges where, sometimes we can't fulfill because of the other personnel and money.
That would be really essential too, to have in the community for anybody, just so that way people can have like a better understanding of what they're voting for, what they're getting themselves involved in.
Yeah, without any like value.
In my opinion, it depends on where the source where the information comes from. goes a long way, because back to your point, you don't want to scare someone, but you also do want people to be vigilant when they're out and about, to be aware.
We're just talking about how social media can be so addictive. And we are always constantly seeking some kind of a rush, some kind of a, whether it's either, nobody likes to go see a boring movie or a show like that. So we tend to gravitate towards drama. So I think keeping it to where it's an actual benefit to share information, and some of the information can be very basic. If there's suspects involved, there's either people that are of a concern, I think that information should be shared. But if it's just sensationalizing an event, I think it draws to the chaos, where people are just drawn into the addiction of being involved in the chaos and not necessarily the solution is right. So keeping track as to how to balance the two, where you're not just sensationalizing things, but also informing the public on how to be more safe. And that's what I mean about, what is the reasoning for wanting to know that information? If it's just gossip, if it's just, was it an actual benefit to know this information, or is it just hearsay and sharing and drawing more into the chaos of the media?
Public safety group, could you share some of the insights your group discussed?
A lot of ideas around, ensuring the aspects of a physical space to kind of ensure that folks coming in and out actually have that sense of security to actually visit those places. And then as well as more of like the mental aspect, right? To make sure everyone's mental health is well going into these spaces, that they don't feel the effects of maybe what took place there or what could take place. So more of the aftercare as well. And then we kind of talked about how we disclose information in terms of public safety. In the time we live, there's a lot of ways to get our information. So what are the best avenues to actually get that information, and maybe what information should folks in positions not be disclosing as much, right? To kind of prevent maybe confusion or more exasperated worry from folks when there shouldn't be, or when an issue has been resolved in the neighborhood. One person mentioned, maybe us ourselves can't take care of ourselves going into these spaces, but bringing our families, people in wheelchairs, children, maybe we wouldn't be so inclined to be wanting to visit these spaces, and then that could lead to an extension of, with less people in the space, there's less eyes to kind of, promote that ongoing reporting and just keep the idea of the neighborhood safety up, with less savory folk kind of taking ownership of that area.
Thank you so much, public safety team. Now let's gear up in the information sharing group.
But we also talked about more in community. So we did a church does a roundtable and more of a community meeting with the members from the neighborhood. They do coalition meetings, tenant meetings, and they engage and build bonds with the youth of the community to encourage them to speak up about things going on in the community. The Seattle Public Police Department does social media updates and outreach through different platforms. And it's more community newsletters, and it's more just being in the community where you get your information. But we also talked about how to make resources more accessible to people in the community, which we said multiple languages. If you put stuff in it, put multiple languages, then it'll be easier for everyone to be involved. We also said giving a space to inform youth of the resources available. And then we talked about how misinformation can cause citizens to have doubt within the SPD or the community itself, not knowing who to trust or who to look to. We also talked about how misinformation can cause biases to be created based off of previous experiences or historical stereotypes being created, and just not trusting the people who live in our own communities, so rumors get started.
So in this group, we talked about what makes community engagement successful and meaningful. Thoughts that were shared were communication with people, community service, digging them to trust in the authorities, building connections, having social media groups like Facebook,
Public events, outreach to people who are outside of that space,
making it accessible to people, different backgrounds, bringing together common interests, and promoting information to communities. We also discussed barriers that could happen to participation. And some of those were fear of involvement, personnel and budgets, spreading information, like people not getting information, lack of understanding, a lack of education, language barriers, cost, transportation barriers, not having the time, family and friends maybe not being interested in participating. So those are some of the barriers. And then ways to encourage more diverse voices was actually reaching out to specific groups, having a trusted advisor who understands that group and who can invite people in, recruiting people, having a safe and inclusive environment, having things in multiple languages.
Yeah, that was some of the things that we talked about in this group.
Thank you to all of our breakers for sharing such valuable ideas. These insights remind us of how powerful we are when we come together to make a difference. Let's keep this momentum going as we move forward.